The words hit me like physical blows, each syllable landing harder than the last. My father's voice, steady, proud, completely devoid of shame, echoed through the dining room as if he'd just announced good weather. We transferred the surgery fund to Clara. She needed it for the boutique launch. The edges of my vision darkened, not blurred, darkened, like someone had turned down the brightness on reality itself. I heard Daniel's chair scrape against hardwood, felt the pressure of his hand finding mine under the table, anchoring me to the moment. My mother dabbed her mouth with a napkin, that same serene expression she wore at charity galas, as if redistributing my son's medical fund was just another philanthropic decision. Clara leaned forward, diamonds glinting at her throat, new ones I hadn't seen before. "You'll understand eventually, Mia. Sometimes family means making sacrifices for those with real potential." Her smile was rehearsed, the kind she'd perfected in front of mirrors. "My name is Mia. I'm 34 and a kindergarten teacher. This is the story of how I learned that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, but it does reveal who deserves to bleed when the truth comes out. Let me tell you how we got here. 6 months earlier, I'd stood in a hospital corridor at 2 a.m., watching my 5-year-old son sleep with machines regulating his heartbeat. The cardiologist had been direct. "The valve replacement is necessary. Without it, his heart will continue to deteriorate." $52,000 for the surgery. I'd started a fundraiser that same night, shared it with family, friends, former students' parents. My father had even contributed $5,000, calling it an investment in his grandson's future. The donations came steadily. People I hadn't spoken to in years sent money. A former colleague organized a bake sale. Daniel's law firm held a silent auction. By October, we'd reached our goal, and the hospital scheduled the surgery for January 15th. I checked the account weekly, watching it grow, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Then, just 3 days before the scheduled January 15th surgery, the hospital called. "Mrs. Carter, there's been an issue with the payment. The account shows insufficient funds." I'd checked it that morning. $52,438. Every cent accounted for. "That's impossible," I'd said, already pulling up my phone with trembling fingers. The balance read $0.00. Transaction history showed a single withdrawal, $52,438, transferred to Luminous Boutique, LLC, Clara's business, authorized by James Harper, my father's full legal name. I called Daniel immediately. Within an hour, he'd contacted his firm's forensic division and started building the case. Over the next week, while I scrambled to get the surgery postponed, Daniel worked around the clock documenting everything. The fund's donor designations, the unauthorized transfer, my parents' involvement. He coordinated with the hospital's legal department, filed the compliance reports, and prepared the investigation framework. By the time I was ready to face my family, he had everything we needed. That confrontation dinner happened 8 days after I discovered the theft. Now, sitting across from my parents, watching my sister admire her new bracelet, I understood. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. "Your son's surgery isn't urgent," Dad continued, cutting his steak with the same precision he applied to everything. "The doctor said it could wait a few months. Clara's boutique opening, however, has a lease deadline. Time-sensitive opportunity. You understand business, Daniel." Daniel's voice came out quiet, controlled. "I understand theft." Mom's fork paused midway to her mouth. "Excuse me?" "The medical fund was designated," Daniel said, still holding my hand. "Every donor specified it was for pediatric cardiac surgery. Redirecting those funds to a private business venture is fraud." Clara laughed. Actually laughed. "You're being dramatic. It's family money. We're just redistributing resources." "To be clear," Daniel continued, his tone shifting into something I recognized from when he testified in court cases. You withdrew $52,438 from an account designated for a minor's life-saving surgery and transferred it to a for-profit business without the account holder's consent or knowledge. Is that accurate? The air changed. Dad set down his knife. Those are harsh words for a family dinner, Mom said tightly. Daniel reached into his jacket pocket, retrieving his phone. Would you like to know what the hospital's legal department called it when they filed their preliminary inquiry? Clara's confident posture cracked. Inquiry? Federal healthcare facilities are required to report suspicious activity involving medical funds, Daniel explained, scrolling through his screen. The moment $52,000 disappeared 3 days before a scheduled pediatric surgery, automatic protocols triggered. The hospital reported it to their compliance department, who forwarded it to the state medical board. Dad's face paled. You're bluffing. Daniel turned his phone around. The email subject line read, Harper Medical Fund, case number 2847-MC, investigation opened. I'm a forensic accountant, Daniel said simply. This is what I do. I trace money. I started as a favor to my fiancée to figure out where her son's surgery fund went. What I found was a clear paper trail from the fundraiser account to Luminous Boutique LLC, authorized by you, Mr. Harper, using your daughter's business registration and your wife's notarization signature. Mom's hand flew to her throat. I signed standard business documents for Clara. I didn't know. You notarized a fund transfer authorization, Daniel interrupted, dated 3 days after you told Mia how proud you were of her fundraising efforts. The document explicitly states, transfer of medical fundraiser, proceeds to business investment account. Silence crashed over the table like a wave. We were going to pay it back, Dad said finally, his voice smaller. When? I spoke for the first time since the revelation. My voice sounded strange, distant. After the surgery date passed? After my son's condition worsened? When exactly were you planning to restore funds designated for a 5-year-old's failing heart? Clara pushed back from the table. This is insane. You're treating us like criminals. You committed a crime, Daniel said flatly. Whether you're treated like criminals depends on the next 72 hours. Dad's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Daniel pulled a folder from his briefcase. I hadn't even noticed him bring it and slid it across the polished table. The hospital is willing to delay formal charges if the full amount is restored within 72 hours. After that, the case moves to the state prosecutor's office. Medical fraud involving a minor victim carries significant penalties. Mom opened the folder with shaking hands. Her face went white as she scanned the documents. This can't be real, she whispered. It's a courtesy, Daniel replied. One the hospital is extending because Mia requested it. They wanted to file charges immediately. I looked at my mother, this woman who'd taught me to share my toys, to put family first, to sacrifice for those I loved. I asked them to wait, I said quietly. Not because you deserve mercy, because I wanted to see your faces when you realized what you'd done. Clara's voice cracked. Mia, please. The boutique's already signed vendor contracts. If I refund the money now, I lose everything. Then you lose everything, I said, like I almost lost my son. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Dad tried one more time, his voice carrying that authoritative tone that had worked my entire childhood. Family doesn't destroy each other over money. You're right, I agreed, standing. Daniel rose beside me. Family doesn't, which is why this is so easy. As we walked toward the door, Mom called out, Mia, wait, please, let's talk about this. I turned back. They looked smaller somehow, the three of them frozen at that perfect table in that perfect dining room, surrounded by the trappings of the image they'd spent decades crafting. 72 hours, I said. The countdown started when Daniel filed the paperwork this morning. You have until Friday at 9 a.m. The door closed behind us with a soft click that sounded like an ending. Back at our apartment, the weight of what we'd done settled over both of us. The next 2 days were chaos contained in silence. My phone exploded with messages I didn't read, calls I didn't answer. Daniel handled everything with surgical precision, communicating only through his firm's legal team. Wednesday afternoon, Clara called from a number I didn't recognize. "Mia," her voice was raw, tears evident. "The investors pulled out. They heard about the investigation. The boutique's finished." I said nothing. "Say something," she begged. "Tell me you're happy. Tell me this is what you wanted." "I wanted my son to have surgery," I replied calmly. "What you wanted cost you your business. What you did could have cost me my child." "I never thought," she started. "That's the problem, Clara. You never thought. Not about him, not about me, just about yourself." Thursday evening, my parents appeared at my door. Dad looked like he'd aged 5 years in 3 days. Mom's perfect makeup couldn't hide the swelling around her eyes. "We sold the vacation house," Dad said without preamble. He held out a certified check, $52,438. I looked at it, this piece of paper that represented so much more than money. "The lake house Grandpa left you?" I asked quietly. Mom nodded. It was all we could liquidate fast enough. I took the check, felt its weight. "Daniel will verify the funds clear before notifying the hospital." "That's it?" Dad's voice broke. "No forgiveness, no family reconciliation." I met his eyes. "You taught me that family means sacrifice. I'm just finally understanding what you meant. You sacrificed your grandson's health for Clara's dream. Now you've sacrificed Grandpa's legacy for your freedom. These are your choices. Live with them." The door closed for the second time that week. The next morning, Friday, Daniel confirmed the funds had cleared. The hospital's legal department sent a brief email. Case closed. Surgery rescheduled for January 28th. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt hollow, like something essential had been excavated from my chest, leaving only space where trust used to live. 2 weeks later, Mom texted, "Sunday dinner, just us. No agendas. Please." "It's a trap," Daniel said immediately when I showed him. "Probably," I agreed, "but I'll go." "Then I'm coming too." The house looked the same, but something fundamental had shifted. The pictures on the walls seemed less authoritative, more desperate. The perfect arrangements felt staged rather than welcoming. Clara answered the door. No diamonds this time. She looked exhausted. "Hi," she said simply. "Hi." Dinner was quiet, tension simmering beneath forced pleasantries. Finally, Dad set down his fork. "I need to say something." He looked directly at me. "Before your grandfather died, he told me something I didn't understand. He said, one day, Mia will be the one who saves this family. I thought he was confused, talking nonsense, but he wasn't." Mom reached for my hand across the table. I didn't pull away, but I didn't squeeze back either. "We've spent 30 years building an image," she said softly. "The perfect family, the successful daughters. We were so focused on how things looked that we forgot how they felt. We forgot you." "You didn't forget me," I corrected. "You decided Clara mattered more." "Yes," Dad admitted. "We did, and we were wrong." Clara spoke for the first time. "I lost the boutique. The lease, the contracts, everything. My credit's destroyed. Investors won't return my calls." She met my eyes. "I deserve that, all of it. But what I don't deserve is your forgiveness, and I'm not asking for it." I studied her face, searching for manipulation, finding only exhaustion. "Then what do you want?" I asked. "To say I'm sorry," she said simply, "and to mean it, even if it changes nothing." The silence that followed wasn't comfortable, but it was honest. "I don't forgive you," I said finally. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I hear you." Mom's eyes filled with tears. That's more than we deserve. It is, Daniel agreed quietly. But it's what grace looks like. Not forgetting, not excusing, just acknowledging that people can be both terrible and human. We didn't stay long. The conversation remained surface level, careful. As we left, Dad walked us to the car. "Your son's surgery is next week?" he asked. "Tuesday," I confirmed. He nodded slowly. "I'd like to be there, not in the room, just in the waiting area in case you need anything." I considered this. "You can come. But understand, you're not there as his grandfather with rights. You're there as a man who's trying to earn back what he threw away." "I understand," he said quietly. Driving home, Daniel glanced at me. "How do you feel?" I watched the streetlights pass, each one a moment between past and future. Like I finally understand what Grandpa meant. Saving the family doesn't mean keeping it together. It means teaching them the cost of falling apart. "That's dark," Daniel observed. "No," I corrected. "That's honest. And honesty is what they stole from me for 34 years. I'm done pretending their comfort matters more than my truth." He smiled. "There's my fiancé." The following Tuesday, we arrived at the hospital for the surgery. The procedure went perfectly. My son came through with color in his cheeks I hadn't seen in months. Dad sat in the waiting room for 7 hours, never asking to see him, never demanding acknowledgement, just present, quiet, humbled. 3 months later, Clara sent a card. Not an apology, we were past those. Just a note. Started working at a nonprofit. Turns out helping people feels better than impressing them. Thank you for showing me the difference. I kept the card, not as forgiveness, but as evidence. People could change. They just had to lose enough first. My father never asked to be called Grandpa again. Instead, he became James, a man who showed up, who stayed quiet, who earned back moments through consistency, rather than demanding them through title. Mom stopped hosting perfect dinners and started asking real questions. The family image cracked, and something more authentic grew through the fissures. And me? I learned that strength isn't silence. It's the willingness to let others face the consequences of their choices while you protect your own peace. The day my son came home from his 6-month cardiology checkup with a perfect report, Daniel found me crying in the kitchen. "Happy tears?" he asked. "Grateful tears," I corrected, "for the people who donated to a stranger's child, for the hospital that fought for us, for you, for believing I deserved better than what they offered." He pulled me close. "You didn't just deserve better. You demanded it. That's the difference." By the time we married that fall, I'd learned something crucial about building a life. Sometimes revenge isn't burning bridges. It's building new ones strong enough that you don't need the old structures anymore. It's understanding that family isn't DNA. It's the people who show up when everything falls apart and help you build something true from the rubble. My parents didn't destroy me. They revealed themselves. And in that revelation, I found something more valuable than their approval. My own foundation, built on truth, defended by boundaries, and ultimately indestructible, because it belonged entirely to me. The betrayal taught me that love without respect is just manipulation wearing a prettier mask. The consequence taught them that forgiveness without change is just enabling wearing a holier name. We're not healed, we may never be whole, but we're honest. And sometimes that's the only revenge worth having, the kind that doesn't destroy you in the process of destroying them.